Hello, everybody. Finn here from Immigration and Mobility Decoded. Today is Friday, April 28th, 2023, and we had some breaking news come out this morning from Michelle Hackman, an immigration reporter at the Wall Street Journal, related to the H-1B cap lottery. So, in an exclusive that Michelle got from the U.S. government, she released an article in the journal this morning titled "Tech Companies Are Colluding to Cheat H-1B Visa Lottery," U.S. says. So Michelle writes that the Biden administration says it has found evidence that several dozen small technology companies have colluded to increase the chances that their prospective foreign hires will win a coveted H-1B visa for skilled foreign workers in this year's lottery. She continues on that U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, which is USCIS, which is the agency that awards H-1B visas, said it has found that a small number of companies are responsible for entering the same applicants into the lottery multiple times, with the alleged goal of artificially boosting their chances of winning a visa. The findings were laid out in a notice to employers viewed by the Wall Street Journal and set to be released Friday. Just an update on that, USCIS on their website has released more information on this story. A few final notes from the article that I'd like to highlight. Hackman writes that this practice, according to USCIS, is in large part responsible for inflating demand for the visas to a record high this year, with 781,000 entries into the lottery for 85,000 visa slots. Some of that increase in demand is organic, government data shows. About 350,000 applicants for H-1B visas submitted one entry into the lottery this year, compared to about 307,000 last year. To offer some context around this news, I just spoke with Addie Hogan, who is founding partner at Corporate Immigration Partners, as well as Ryan Harris, who is a supervising attorney at Corporate Immigration Partners. Addie and Ryan discussed the implications of this news and what it means for U.S. employers, for national employees, and everyone else who is involved in the H-1B cap lottery. So without further ado, I bring you that conversation with Addie Hogan and Ryan Harris. So I'm here with Addie Hogan and Ryan Harris, both from Corporate Immigration Partners, to react to today's news from the Wall Street Journal and USCIS. Addie, this news is regarding the H-1B lottery. Can you tell everyone what happened?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ben. I think that this is something that we've all been expecting for or all been assuming for the last few years, and have been just waiting for this to happen, because we've seen the numbers. This year's H-1B registration and this year's H-1B lottery, they received 781,000 registrations, which is a significant increase from last year. So what this article has said is that USCIS has been suspecting fraud, and has possibly found fraud in the system. They've confirmed that about 96,000 applicants have multiple registrations that account for about 408,000 registrations. So out of that 781 registrations, 408 of those are multiple beneficiaries, which is leaving about 350,000 registrations for single entry H-1B applicants, which is about what we would expect. And if it were those, 350,000 numbers, the selection rate would be about 30% or so, which is what we've had in the past. So kind of what we've expected. We're happy about this. We're happy that this can now be investigated, because as an immigration attorney, and Ryan can attest to it, it's frustrating having a 15% selection rate and having a lot of people stuck with no other alternatives.
Ryan, any other thoughts to add to the top line news here?
Yeah, just to tag on to that, it's heartbreaking really to watch. You do read these registrations and people putting a lot of hope into the system, hoping to extend their work authorization beyond when their student status might expire. And to see those numbers as low as they were, it was clear that what we had been waiting for since the online registration rolled out was starting to happen, and that people were trying to game that system.
There are a lot of folks who are going to be impacted by this news. Ryan, your thoughts initially on how employers will be impacted by this news, how H-1B applicants going forward will be impacted, and how actual applicants in this year's lottery are impacted by these revelations from USCIS?
Yeah, for starting with the employers, employers have a lot of desperation as well, right? Because they've got a workforce where they need to employ beyond the expiration of a student visa, and if they don't win the lottery, they can't continue to employ these folks. So it may be appealing for one of your employees that may come to you saying, I've got a lottery selection with another employer, and it's going to be great, and they've promised me it's legal, and we're just going to contract to you. It's time to be very wary of those offers. Your transfer petition to take over sponsorship of that visa could be denied if it's found that there wasn't really a bona fide job offer behind that registration. And you could get unwanted scrutiny on your program if USCIS is going to start looking at whether employers were essentially conspiring together to increase or boost chances of selection in the lottery. Just a reminder to employers, when you e-sign that registration, you're entering a sworn statement that you've not worked with or agreed to work with a separate sponsor simply to pass along an H-1B lottery winning to yourself.
Addie, any thoughts to add to that?
Yeah, just what, adding on to what Ryan said and that I left out in the beginning, that the USCIS has found that a lot of these multiple entries have come from small tech and consulting companies. So what happens is they, get the registration, they'll perhaps put forth an H-1B petition, get that H-1B petition approved, and then contract that employee to the employer that they're already at. After they've been on payroll for a few months, then the employee may go to their employer and say, hey, I want you to do a change of employer for me and transfer this H-1B from this small tech consulting company now to your company. So I think we're going to have to be wary of that, like Ryan said, that their USCIS could be looking for those names of those companies. They could flag it and they could deny the petition, and that's a lot of money for U.S. employers, especially when you file premium processing with that $2,500. That's a lot of money to result in a denial. So certainly something that we're going to have to certainly something we'll have to look at.
And on the employee side, if you are sitting holding one of these lottery winnings with a company that may have registered you, but there's no real job offer there, you may be wondering, right, what your next move is. First and foremost, we can't give legal advice to every situation here, but get your own counsel. Speak to an attorney before you proceed or decide to keep going with that case to make sure you've got something that's legitimate here, because this is stuff that can come back to haunt. I'll raise a recent example where we learned lessons with respect to, in the student visa space, sort of fake universities that were set up to issue work authorization where students weren't, going to class. These were, in some cases, predatory organizations. In some cases, fake schools set up by the government to basically catch this kind of thing. And then you're tagged. And it can come up in visa interviews, and it could come up in future benefits applications. So if you don't feel like you have a legitimate job offer standing behind your H-1B lottery winning this year, you want to take a very heavy second thought about whether you should proceed with that case.
So a lot of great fruit for thought for participants in the H-1B lottery, both employers and foreign national employees. But looking ahead, what can USCIS and the Biden administration do to fix this problem that has clearly arisen with the H-1B lottery system? Addie, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, sure. I think we've heard, maybe they'll increase the fee, right? Right now, the fee to enter into the lottery is $10. It's nothing. And they're thinking of maybe increasing it to $200 or $210 or $215. That's not going to really do anything. Most likely, these companies are charging the foreign nationals to enter into the registration, so they're probably covering that fee anyways. I think that they need to come down on some of these companies that have done this to prove a point, to say, hey, we're actually going to take action on this and we're going to stop it. Whether or not they, it's important to keep in mind that multiple registrations, entering in the lottery with multiple companies, is not illegal. It is allowed in the system. So this is a little bit of a loophole. And I think that the Biden administration needs to close the loophole somehow, whether they go as far as saying you're not allowed to have more than one registration with more employer. I'm not sure on that yet, but that could be a solution.
I think certainly we're going to see increased enforcement action. I think there was an expectation that when they lowered the bar with the digital registration, that you might have more game playing, and it didn't seem like there was much enforcement or much investigation that followed up on this. And so this year, with those numbers spiking, we're seeing the government actually is serious about this issue. And so we're going to see that come through in the investigations, and there's talk of even criminal prosecutions that could follow from this. So very serious stuff. The government has also announced that they're working on a rule to modernize the system to combat fraud more. So we should all be on the lookout for that. There will be a public comment period. There being some risk there of overcorrection, of making the process more burdensome for legitimate employers. And so it's a sweet spot that they have got to hit here without making it too burdensome on real employers, but not allowing just sort of free for all fraud on the system.
Well, this is very fresh news, new information, a lot coming out. I appreciate both of your insights on this news. We'll continue to track it and share more with our audience, with our listeners going forward. I imagine you both have lots of phone calls and are going to be very busy with your own clients with this news coming out. So I appreciate the time. Ryan and Addie, I appreciate it both.
Thanks a lot, Finn.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to Immigration and Mobility Decoded. If you watched this video on YouTube and you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to the Envoy Global YouTube channel for more content like this. Otherwise, please follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks, everyone.